whole lot without taking my headset off.
I wouldn't worry about it. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast Live. And tonight we are on Wednesday night because you guessed it, the college football playoff was this last Monday night. And what a weekend of games, including Monday night. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to break it all down today. Jimothy, myself, alongside, as always, is the best co-host in the business. Welcome back, Tubby.
What is up? It's definitely weird. I forgot that we were recording at 5:30 today. Like 30 minutes ago, I was eating dinner. I was like, "Oh, we're recording."
Yeah, no, it is. It feels weird to have it on Wednesday, but for the record, anyone who probably checked in on Monday night, like, what the heck are they doing? Where are they at? The game was on, and you probably didn't check in on us because you were watching the game too. And those games went so late. I think it was like midnight the last game. We got to fix that. We got to move them
Yeah,
somehow. But we did get it done. And if you're joining us on YouTube, I just want to say thank you guys so much. If you're watching on Facebook, yeah, my mic setup looks a little different today. We're a work in progress because I left my actual mic at work, so we're using a gaming headset. So we're gonna see how the audio comes through. Hopefully, it sounds okay.
hey, it sounds fine on my end.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. So I got to know, we got a couple new things right now. So first off, Tubby, what is this hat? This blue looks incredible.
Let's see if I can't do this without making too much noise.
What is that? Oh, it's the blue Los Angeles one. Is that the City Connect colors that they got?
Yeah, it's like the old, like Lost Dodgers, older
Yes.
City Connect one. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. I did hear today the Cardinals are going to have a City Connect uniform.
Oh.
And I'm terrified, but I did read an article that the Cardinals looked at a mock-up from the company that does it, which I believe is Nike,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all red. Kind of like what how the Cubs have all blue, and some of these teams are
Yeah.
just way out there. The Cardinals
Mm-hmm.
said, "Nope, this looks like a cartoon, or it looks bad. Have all red." So I think they're going to keep the similar pant style, probably the white or the cream and or gray, and then they're going to move over to a red jersey, which they've had for like spring training and batting
Yeah.
practice. So I think it's going to look great. I'm excited for that. As long as they don't do anything crazy, I imagine it'll have like the Gateway Arch or something like that on it.
Yeah, yeah. As long as it doesn't, rival something like the Giants, where it's just that, little league looking logo with the
100%.
fading, colors and the orange helmet and all that stuff. Yeah, as long as
Right.
you can stay away from that, and because it's got to be somewhat classic, kind of because it's the Cardinals. It's kind of like the Dodgers.
Yes.
The Dodgers are kind of boring, but
On
they're
purpose.
not gonna, yeah, on purpose. They aren't gonna go overboard and try to do something flashy because the Dodgers are just kind of that, it's a historical thing. You got to keep the logos, everything pretty, similar to what they normally are because you don't just want
Yeah.
something way out there. And
Dodgers,
because
Yankees, Cardinals, some of these Cubs. I would have said that, but the Cubs did
yeah,
theirs. They're one of my least favorite ones. Like
yeah,
I'm fine with Wrigleyville, but I don't like. I don't like the pants. The pants is what gets me.
yeah, like the Dodgers when they did the black pants, I wasn't for it. I did
Yeah.
not like the black pants with the all blue, top and everything. So yeah, it's not, like the Dodgers and Cardinals and Yankees and stuff. You don't have to bring people into the stadium because they're already coming.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
not like you have
Yeah.
to go super flashy and try to do something, out of ordinary to get people to come in to see it, like you do the Rockies and a
Yeah.
couple other places where they have to really try to do something cool to go. Oh man, I want to go watch them play in those uniforms.
100%.
Keep it classy. Keep it closer to original as you can.
Yeah, because I already have to add like ads and stuff on there, so let's keep it clean, keep it nice.
Yeah.
So you got your hat. I'm rocking. I haven't owned a Suns hat in quite some time. Very
I
excited. It
like
was a
it.
Christmas gift from a friend of mine, and I'm a picky. I think we're both very picky when it comes to hats. Like
Yeah.
it's got to fit right. It's got to be the right depth. It's got to right. And this guy, he just got me these two hats. He got another one I'll have to wear another time. But I was like, man, I can trust you. And he has good hat game too
Yeah.
already. But I was like, man, these are great. I haven't had a Suns hat in a while. Um, so
Yeah.
it was nice.
I like
Felt
it.
like
I
I had
like
to
the
rep it
old
today.
school.
Like the
Yeah, the
purple.
old school looking Suns logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so
Nice.
sick. So, all right. So this gaming headset, I know we're gonna get to. Don't worry, we're gonna get to it. I'm sorry, we're burying it a little bit here, but I am playing Call of Duty with one of my best friends, and he is a great communicator. I was telling you this before we hit go, and so this was important. If I'm gonna play with him, I had to have this headset on, and it's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. If you didn't know, you probably do. It has all the Modern Warfare 2 original maps, right?
Uh,
So Estate is one of those, and I didn't play Modern Warfare 2. I picked up Call of Duty once Black Ops 2 got around, and I was incredible. Okay, just for the record, I'm terrible now. I was incredible back then, and we're playing Search and Destroy, and we're getting our butts handed to us, and then all of a sudden, we have like 4 guys join our party all of a sudden real fast, which is great. But they all die because they you know got into it middle of the game. Anyway, I'm the only one left. And this Modern Warfare has been chat like the old school days where everybody's talking and they say, get underneath there, hide underneath the dock, hide underneath the boat ramp or whatever it is. They won't be able to see you. I, noob, don't know what I'm doing. I remember this map from way back in the day, but I don't know all the spots. So sure enough, I hide. And then 2 seconds later, I get sniped. And then I'm the final kill. So they're showing it. And I am not hiding from anybody. I am wide out in the open. It's like easy hard scope, just line it up, boom, dead. And the chat is just laughing their faces off. It was a good memory.
It's Jim from The Office.
Basically,
he's walking around with the grenade in his hand, looking straight up, running into the
disaster. But it was a ton of fun. So really appreciate our boy Alejandro.
It's been years since I played Call of Duty, so I wouldn't fare any better.
It's so bad. Yeah. But it's fun. It was just and I love the chat did not. I mean, that was a very loud laugh chat. So all right, well, let's just jump into it. We watched those games this weekend. We had the SEC versus the Big Ten. We had the why am I forgetting? Pac-12 versus the Big 12, and those two teams are not going to be in those conferences next year. But both games were really good. We predicted Alabama to win the first one. We both predicted Washington, I believe, to win the second game. So we're going to start with the first one. This game, Michigan takes down Alabama. Jalen Milroe, it seemed like their only offense, correct me if I'm wrong, was QB scramble. They had no downfield pass. It was a must prepare for Jim Harbaugh on that defense, and it really felt like they suffocated the game plan that they had, and they couldn't run the ball overly effective enough outside of Milroe, and even him, he was kind of held in check.
Yeah, no, it kind of was reverse of what we thought. We were like, man, you're giving Saban a month to prepare for a football game. Typically he's going to go out there and you're going to see something that you didn't see, and it was kind of the complete opposite. That defensive line from Michigan absolutely just caved in that offensive line for Alabama.
Yes.
5 sacks in the first half, 6 total for the game. It was, I mean, something that we expected. It was one of those things that we talked about. The offensive line has to be able to be shored up for this game, and it wasn't. And thing is, Michigan's really not a team that has high sack totals this year either.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they were able to get to Milroe that much, it a lot, I think, has to be on Tommy Rees, the way he called that game, where it was constantly drop back, first down, no matter what, drop back, try to get the plays downfield. And this goes, credit to what you said was one of the big X factors for this game was the Michigan secondary reducing the big plays and holding them in check. And that's absolutely what happened. Was we know Milroe is good with his legs and he's really good at downfield big plays. That didn't happen this game. They held him in check. They hit him a lot. Different blitz schemes, linebackers, safeties, corners. They really had Tommy Rees kind of bottled up until the second half when they got, let's have Milroe run the football. Another one of our, X factors, Milroe running the football with his legs, and it seemed to work. And then they kind of went away from it again in the fourth quarter, which, it was kind of a bad coaching all around for Alabama, to where Michigan, though, they coaching-wise killed it in that game.
Yeah, and if you look at it, outside of Isaiah Bond's big 29-yard pass play, Milroe had 15 completions for just about 90 yards passing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how good they really shut down the passing game. I mean, you say 16 to 23, you look at that, you're like, oh yeah, he's probably had a good game. Only 116 yards. His QBR was under 50. They're running the ball outside of Jalen Milroe. They only ran the ball 20 times outside of him. Really, it just was not an effective setup for the ground game, and that's been the struggle for him this year. Burton, again, longest completion that he had as a catch was 11 yards. Just could not get anything going. They had 5 total fumbles, only lost one of them, but they were coughing up the ball quite a bit. All that said, Alabama could have won this game. They were so close because of special teams plays. Michigan got lucky more times than not. The missed extra point, the botched extra point snap or field goal snap, the muffed punts. The muff punt tried to be fielded inside the 7-yard line. Almost gets. I mean, he's lucky he had forward progress at the 1.5-yard line, because if not, this game is 22-20, and they're punting the ball to Alabama. I mean, you just think about how close this was. That's the one part of the coaching I think that Michigan's going to have to shore up in the next week, because you're going to have some punts or punt returns, and you can completely transform the momentum of a game whenever you. I mean, it happened in this game, literally. It's just, hey, we punted it, but it's still our ball, and it was like a 50-yard pass play.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about, the special teams played a huge factor in that, because at that point you don't muff the first punt. Alabama probably doesn't score really that first half, because that was really the only big, offensive rhythm that they had, was they got that, muff punt, and it was a Jason McClellan 20-yard run, set them up for their first touchdown. And then after that, they really had to scratch and fight for every single yard. And like I said, Harbaugh and that group, they did an excellent job when it came to coaching, because they really hit everything that, everyone was like, man, they really got to make sure the secondary, keeps the big plays away. They got to be able to slow down the run. Absolutely just destroyed them. And then another big factor is, we've talked about the Alabama offensive line all year, and we saw Seth McLaughlin, the center, just have it. I don't know if it was yips or what. The dude could not snap the ball straight, rolling it over his head. The very last play, he snaps it low to where Milroe has to drop his head to pick the football up.
All time is gone.
Yeah, if he doesn't drop his head, because it looked like it was an RPO, he has wide receiver out to the left with blockers in front of him. He throws it out. There's a good chance that they score on that play, and maybe send it into a second overtime. And through all the timing off, balls down at his feet, he takes it and just runs forward and runs straight into the the teeth of the defense.
Yeah, a really strong, well done game. I mean, part of it, even for them, might have been just how they were constantly in the backyard. So yips maybe just trying to get ready quick enough, get back into that stance once the ball is snapped. That, I mean, it seems like they got into the mind of that offensive line. So you just look at that in Michigan. We've talked about it a lot this year that they have looked like the best team, even though sometimes they haven't played the best teams. This game right here, it showed Jim Harbaugh has built up a program to be a great football team. J.J. McCarthy did a great job in this game. Blake Corum, of course, did Blake Corum things. His longest run was 21 yards. Outside of that, the dude had 60 yards on 18 carries. 2 touchdowns. Like, this is just what he does. He wears the team down. Donovan Edwards has been a ghost the last half of the year. Yeah. So no surprises there. But J.J. McCarthy had a couple scrambles. And McCarthy, 17-27, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. It was a good game against an Alabama defense that was playing hot.
Yeah. And it was complete opposite, for them offensive line-wise. That was, I'm just going to go out and say we nailed every single X factor that we talked about last week.
100% did, dude.
Yeah, Michigan's offensive line gave him time. You had those 2 edge rushers in Dallas Turner and Chris Braswell, who are probably going to be first-round picks this year, and they touched the quarterback once. I mean, that offensive line, even without Zach Zinter in that game, the starting left guard in the game, they were able to, wasn't, the most efficient running game, but they were able to, in the times when they needed to, open up the holes enough for Corum to, make moves down the field to open up the pass game for
play action.
Play action, for McCarthy later in the game. And so, it was, like I said, it was just a masterful class when it came to coaching for Michigan, compared to the opposite side, which is something that we probably haven't seen, maybe except for Kirby Smart outsmarting, Nick Saban. Jim Harbaugh and that coaching staff, hats off to them, because we thought it was going to be the opposite. Nick Saban gets a whole month.
Oh yeah.
Man, Harbaugh got the whole month, and Sharon Moore got the whole month. That defense coordinator got the whole month, and it showed.
Yeah, and part of that may honestly be, I mean, the weaknesses that Alabama had that it looked like they were at least addressing, or they were finding ways to work around it, that
Mm-hmm.
just didn't have it in this game. And so even with the extra month, I think Alabama was a really solid team. And I think if you put Alabama against the Texas or Washington, and we'll get to that game here in a little bit, I think they're still within a possession of that game. And all this stuff said, Tommy Rees still somehow managed to get this team within a shot of winning, and sort of that defense and poor special teams play by Michigan. It's just so crazy. I mean, it was a good game. It was back-to-back years where this round has produced some fantastic must-see TV. And Michigan, not a whole lot of turnovers, 5 total penalties. They let them play. It's great to watch.
Yep, they did. They really let the guys, hand fight a lot in the secondary, both sides. Yeah, it was good that we didn't see the refs kind of take over that game.
Yeah. JJ McCarthy, I mean, he still has one more game. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it, but there has been talks of him going to the next level. I don't know. Again, we don't have to get too in depth. You're going to do a great, draft breakdown of top players at each position, and this will be one of those that will he even crack the top 5? You don't have to go into a deep breakdown, but I'd love to know. I mean, just from your eye test, are you seeing this as a top 5 NFL type quarterback?
Not right now. I think he needs another year. I think another year with Sharon Moore as the offense coordinator, be able to build up a little bit more, I think he just doesn't have that ability, I think, even as well as he played, to take over the game as a quarterback. I think he needs one more year to kind of refine his passing skills, his accuracy. I don't think that he would be in my top 5 right now. I think that he would probably just be just on the outside of it. It would be kind of a toss-up between him and Bo Nix, I think, for my 5th spot.
Wow. I mean, those are 2 great college quarterbacks, which is crazy to think at the next level what it looks like. So before we move on to the next game, any final thoughts you had or observations from the game?
No, I think I kind of talked it all. I talked a lot, so I think I kind of zoned out on exactly all I said.
Well, it was all good stuff from my perspective, sitting listening to it. And I loved what you said, like, hey, we had X factors going into it. And even though with the picks, we were 1-1, but I will say great games. And so, you just got to listen. And sometimes you just got to listen. And that's what I was getting to do there, was just listen. So we're going to move on to Texas Longhorns versus Washington Huskies. I saw a really fun comp of Sarkisian versus Jimbo Fisher's first couple of years. I don't know. You probably saw it too, because we saw the same memes. And I was like, ooh, man, that's tough. This one was 37-31. It was not as close as it looks. It wasn't as close as it looks. Texas still could have won this game. I believe if that throw wasn't such a lob. I think if he throws more of a dart, I don't know why he lobbed it. It wasn't a Hail Mary, but that's what it felt like Quinn Ewers did.
I think what happened was the defense coordinator had gotten his head the play before, where he pretty much all out, blitz, got Quinn Ewers off his spot, and he threw, luckily it wasn't a sack for them, because it would have ended the game.
Yeah.
I think he thought that he was bringing pressure again. He showed pressure. They dropped back, and he thought, they're coming at me. I got to get it out of my hand quick. So he lobbed it up, and it was a great mind game, I think, on the defensive coordinator's, side, because I think he really made them think, I'm going to bring the house again, try to get him off his spot. So he's like, I got to make sure I get it out of my hand fast, give my guy a shot, and didn't really give him much of a shot.
Yeah, and he had like the defender, like he played the ball perfectly well too.
Yeah.
Like he was ready. It's almost so like if it was the mind game, it was almost a great coaching moment of like, hey, this is what I anticipate.
Yep.
Be ready for it. Don't go too quick. I mean, it was really well done. And Washington really tried to give this game to Texas. I mean, they really tried. If you look on paper, the only thing that Washington didn't do better was run the ball, but they ran the ball more. And this is what we saw Washington do against Oregon in those really big games, that they would just keep on staying physical. And yeah, they may literally be averaging 2.3 yards per carry. They're going to give them the ball 20 times, because it's going to have to keep the defense honest. Texas run defense did a great job, and that's ultimately why they had a shot to win this game, was because they stopped Washington when it mattered most at the very end. But Michael Penix absolutely played his brains out. I mean, 2 touchdowns, 430 yards passing in this game is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, some of those throws that he made, it made me kind of look at him a little bit different than what I had, originally thought. I had thought maybe going into that game, draft wise, I was like, man, I think it'd be hard for him maybe to sneak into the first round. My opinion, because I feel like he does throw a good ball. He's very accurate, but the placement on some of those passes was just, I mean, on another level.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There was like at least two or three, one down the side, down the left side to Roman Dunze, just right over Ryan Watts' head. I mean, it was just like Dunze didn't even have to move his hands. The ball just fell right into it. And then there's another one down the middle, down the numbers to Polk. He had one of the best games I've seen this year from a quarterback, the way he threw that football. But this is something we thought, Texas secondary is their big weak part when it comes to that defense. And the fact that the Washington didn't just throw it every single play kind of, was like, stop trying to run it at T'Vondre Sweat like you have. Just keep on throwing it because they can't stop. No one had an answer for Ndunzi, McMillan, or Polk. And so I get you're trying to keep the, game, clock moving and stuff like that. But, man, you probably could have put up more points, I think, if you would have stopped trying to. I mean, because fourth down, and what do? You snap it straight to your running back and have him run straight forward into the teeth of Texas defense. Their strength,
not a fan of that.
In that defensive line. Yeah, so why don't take the ball out of his hands. But, yeah, they absolutely try to give that game away with, I mean, I get your guys hurt, and they ended up having to, cart him to the back. On them, I'm picking my guy up, throwing him on my back, and I'm running him off the field because you let the clock stop, which I think is an absolutely stupid rule when it comes to the offensive team. The clock stopping. I can understand if, you had timeouts and you don't want, fake injuries, but this is the offensive team trying to kill the clock. Why does the clock have to stop because he gets hurt? Why do they have to burn a timeout? Why does it not, start whenever you're ready for play, instead of, it'll start once you snap the ball. I think it's one of those things they may have to kind of tweak because it gave Texas a chance when they shouldn't have had a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know Longhorns fans were grateful for it, and it's a nerve-wracking time because you're like, well, what if? And I mean, ball don't lie, as Rasheed Wallace would always say, ball don't lie, and it didn't in that case. Texas did have a couple turnovers, and I think that was part of the thing too. Is like Quinn Ewers did not look like he was in rhythm most of this game. It felt like a little bit out of sync, a little bit ahead or behind constantly. And still 300 yards, no interceptions, and a touchdown. You'd think, well, that's still a good game, but barely even over 50% completion percentage. And part of it looks like Baxter and Blue both with fumbles. I mean, both of those guys are really solid, really talented, and you wonder, would this team look different if they didn't have the same injuries that they did at the running back position?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head last week when you're like, if he is out of sync the first couple quarters, it's going to be a long day for him, and he was. He was really out of sync the first three quarters. He didn't really get into a groove until like the midway through the fourth quarter, and then that final drive. And
it was too late.
I was honestly surprised he stayed in the game. I mean, he hit his head hard on the ground.
I don't know how that wasn't a concussion.
Yeah, I mean, he hit his head and immediately grabbed his head, and it was like, oh, my head's ringing or something. They had Arch kind of warming up a little bit on the sideline. So maybe that had to be part of it, but he played better after it, so I don't know. But
calmed him down.
It woke him up a little bit. Yeah. But I mean, he just didn't seem like he was comfortable all game. He was, I mean, with those guys that you have wide receiver wise, I mean, you have a pretty good wide receiver group yourself with A.D. Mitchell, Whittington, Worthy, and your tight end and Sanders. So the fact that you weren't able to get them the ball enough, I get you were gashing them. The offensive line was, putting a lot of, depth when it came to the running the ball on that defensive line. But yeah, I think you kind of went one side too heavy and didn't include the game enough toward, early parts of the game. And it kind of took Quinn Ewers out of his rhythm. and didn't really have to throw the football a whole lot. And then when he did, it wasn't very accurate when it came, passing. And it took him a little bit longer, I think, to get into the flow of the game. But I mean, yeah, what Kalen DeBoer was able to do with that team offensive wise, though, it was pretty up there with the way they played. I mean, you had you got your three guys into the game like you needed in the wide receiver.
Absolutely.
And Michael Penix, I mean, like I said, that's one of the best games I've seen a quarterback have this year in college football. The way he was able to place the ball, and against a top 25 defense in Texas, you went out there and
a
balled
great
out.
defensive line too, to
Yeah.
have that as the pressure point. Like, yeah, sometimes the secondary that could be it, but no, this is the defensive line. You're going to be battling them every single time, and 0 sacks for Texas.
Yep.
0 sacks. So not only is your secondary the weakness that we talked about going into it, the defensive line Sweat wasn't able to get there in the backfield, so it seemed like they had a good plan. And on the other side, Washington had 3 sacks and 2 from your boy Braylon Trice. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, like I said, if you didn't watch last week, we nailed every single X factor. Every single X factor. The like you just pointed out, the offensive line for Washington was my X factor. They kept him clean, no sacks, and they get 3 tackles for loss. That's it with that defensive line. Just saying if you didn't listen, maybe you should have.
You just gotta listen because it's worth it.
We nailed it. Yeah,
we nailed it. Washington is going into it, and I was going into the weekend. I picked Alabama, but I was going for Michigan. Like I think all of us were. I mean, it's like we don't want the Patriots to win. We don't want them to win. So Washington versus the number 1 versus number 2. Washington versus Michigan. It's going to be a heck of a game, and we can do if you want. We can go ahead and do a prediction and a breakdown real quick of the game now, if you're feeling up for it, and then we can move on to some of the other games that really don't matter as much. But just more long in storyline. But how you feeling?
Yeah, no, let's do it.
All right. And if you're in the chat, go ahead and put your predictions too. You can do those in the chat too, so we can see what you're feeling, where you're leaning. Oh, before I almost forgot this, Quentin Ewers has thought about possibly staying, possibly coming out. We don't know yet. We said if he had a really great run, hey, you go ahead and go out in the hot streak. However, I think we both would agree he's probably not a top 5 quarterback going into the NFL draft this next year. How would you say that as well if he did decide to go ahead and declare?
Yeah, no, you need to go back. I think he needs to go back more than J.J. McCarthy would, honestly. And that's nothing against him. He's just had a lot of games where he disappeared. And he's supposed to be the better passer. And I don't know. There's something about Quinn Ewers. I feel like he needs to go back. But if he stayed 2 more years, I wouldn't, be upset about it because I think that's probably what would be best for him. I would probably have him closer to the 6 or 7 mark when it comes to top quarterbacks in this draft. And plus, next year, you go out and you ball out, there's a much better chance you're going to be one of the 1 or 2 quarterbacks taken with the quarterback class next year compared to this year.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point too. So, and then, I mean, I don't think next year he'll have as much pressure with Arch Manning. Obviously, that's going to be a huge narrative going into spring ball. How good does Arch play? And in the blowout games early in the schedule. So we'll see. Looking at this championship game, it's on Monday night at 6:30, which means it'll end about 1:00 a.m. With all the ads and TV and stuff like that. But tickets right now are as low as $942. You going?
No.
No.
They can keep them.
They can keep them. Over under set about 55.5, and Michigan is favored by 3 points. So, what are you seeing as the leading X factor going into this game for Washington, and then we can do Michigan on the next side?
I think it's kind of going to be a lot along the same X factors as the last one. I think it's going to be the offensive line again. I mean, look what Michigan was able to do with Alabama. You got an incredible defensive line from Michigan going against the Joe Moore award-winning offensive line. Who's going to bend? Who's going to break? You had 6 sacks against Alabama. Can you get that same pressure on Michael Penix? I think the offensive line for Washington is going to be a huge X factor if they can hold up and keep him clean again. I mean, if he can go and be as efficient and have a clean pocket like he did against Texas, you're setting yourself up for, good success.
Yeah. I do think that you look at this. We've said Michigan's probably one of the best teams all year long. We picked Oregon to beat Washington, and Washington keeps on doing it. And now they're
Yeah.
both 14 and 0. I think they're both 14 and
Yeah.
0 headed into this last game. So it's gonna. I mean, that's incredible to think that you're getting two undefeated teams at the end of the year, even with a playoff. And Washington now. This is. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the best quarterback Michigan has faced, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Not
not
even
even close.
close.
Outside of, and I would say depth-wise, this is the best receiving core that Michigan has faced, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the
Yeah.
X factor for Washington for me, it's going to be Michael Penix, and that's a boring pick. But outside of what you're saying, I'm saying if this is the absolute best one, they
Mhm.
faced really good running backs. They faced really good offensive lines. Not this good, probably, but
Yeah.
this is Michael Penix could be the absolute catalyst that keeps mistake-free football and stays in rhythm, stays downfield. You just look at this Washington team, and Michigan is going to have their hands full at every
Yeah.
single turn, even if they shut down the run, which I expect them to, which is why there's more pressure for me on Michael
Mhm.
Penix, is because he has to get the ball downfield. Because if they
Yeah.
are half dimensional, not even one dimensional, this game's over. I mean, Michigan's going to wipe the floor with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that's it really is going to come down to those positions for them, the offensive line, quarterback, and even those wide receivers having to get open downfield against a good secondary for Michigan. So yeah, I mean, and if I'm gonna pick my X factor for Michigan, I'm kind of there's a couple I want to pick, but I'm gonna go with Blake Corum. I think Blake Corum has to be the offense, and we saw what Texas was able to do against Washington when it came to the run game. They were gouging them 6-7 yards carry here and there, and now you got a seasoned offensive line with Michigan, who maybe not be as good as they have been the last couple of years, but still a really good offensive line, and arguably top 3, top 4 running back in college football, and Blake Corum. He's going to have to be that X factor for them, because can McCarthy do it? And like, he had a great game against Alabama, one of his better games he's had. Was able to play mistake-free football, but I feel like, I don't know, it may sound weird. I feel like these guys, these corners, even with Kool-Aid and Terry and Arnold for Alabama, these guys seem like they're a little bit more ball hockey. Muhammad for Washington is a big physical ball hawk corner. I don't know if they have the wide receiver to really, face up against the physicality of these corners. I think Corum's going to have to go out there, and he's going to have one of his best games this year and really just control the game, eat that clock, keep Penix and Dunzy in that offense off the field as much as possible.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take as the X factor for Michigan is Jesse Minter and the
Yeah.
coordinator. Like, what is this plan that he's gonna have? Because I think what you're saying is right. JJ McCarthy usually plays mistake free. He almost had a big mistake early on in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't happen. And Blake Corum, we expect him. He's gonna find the end zone. This is just what
Yeah.
he does. He knows how to find the end zone. He's one of those running backs. So how can you make sure that you contain the explosiveness? Because they had two massive plays, 70 and 50 plus yards against Texas. How do you keep
Yeah.
them in check? And he's a defensive back guy anyway, so he's going to have the right tools in his pocket to do it. But I don't know, this receiving depth and talent in the quarterback is going to be the best. And so for me, it almost, unfortunately, it just goes to the opposite side of the field
Yeah.
for my X factor for both teams. But give me Jesse Minter. What is his game plan? He's only got a week to prepare
Yeah.
against the best that he has faced this year.
Yeah. I mean, it's the best passing offense in college football. Statistically, the
Yeah.
best passing offense in college football. So, yeah, that was my other one. It was between the running backs or the secondary for Michigan, and I kind of had a feeling maybe you were leaning towards the defensive side, so I
Yeah.
went with Corn. But yeah, that secondary is going to be tested like they haven't been tested all season. And Ohio State has a great wide receiver group. I don't know if it's quite as like it has been over the last few years. Julian Fleming kind of had a subpar season. Mecca Egbuka, same thing, was kind of missing most of the
Subpar,
season.
yeah.
Yeah, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is Marvin Harrison Jr. He's only one guy, and he still had a great game against them, in that game. But this is different when you have three guys that have consistently been really good, and you got second best player in college football all season throwing the football. It's a big different, it's a big task for you going
Mhm.
forward compared to anything you've seen all season.
Yeah, and so speaking of that, I think we would say we've already kind of probably established this for Michigan. Michigan, the thing that they haven't seen all season that they're going to see now is this explosive offense, this passing game that's one of
Oh,
the best.
absolutely.
So what is it that Washington is going to have that eye-opening experience like you haven't seen this yet from Michigan that they're going to
I
bring?
think I think it's going to be physicality. As much as the SEC is physical, there's just a different type of physicality when it comes to the Big Ten because they like to play that hard nosed defense.
Yeah.
You got the Michigan hard nosed defense, the Iowas, even Nebraska. You got these teams that may not look like the best, but when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, they're going to play this hard nosed defense. They're going to come up there and they're going to hit you in the mouth. Don't really play that a whole lot out on the West Coast. So it's going to be different for Washington. You know, they're going to be playing against a hard nosed defense, something that they haven't seen all season. Someone that's going to come up there and just hit you in the mouth every single play. So can they hold up to that physicality? Can that offensive line? Can those players? Because you're going to get hit over the middle too. You're going to come up, catch football. Someone's going to come up and hit you in the chest whenever you're coming over the middle. So can you hold up to that type of physicality? I think is going to be their big. Whoa! I got hit harder than probably I've ever been hit this year.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. I was going to say this is probably the most complete and physical team that they're going to see this year. Oregon's probably the next closest, and then Texas.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say Oregon just doesn't run the ball the way they should, and the way
Yeah.
that probably would have led it ultimately to those wins. But this team is just so complete. Like you see the defense, you see the way they work well together on the offensive line, and just how good they are and well coached. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to say Jim
Mm-hmm.
Harbaugh right now is one of the best coaches right now in college football, and he has built something up over time. He didn't try to do it quick; he built it up over time, and you're seeing the results. So,
Yep.
more of a big. I think it's just a overall thing that they're going to
Yeah.
see
Yeah. No, for
there, the
sure.
physicality for sure. So, all right, are you ready to pick? Are you ready to make your pick on this game?
I'm ready.
All right, give us a score if you can.
Give it the score. Okay.
Yeah.
I think they're the team of destiny right now. I think it's Washington. Everyone's counted them out the last three. The last three games. I mean,
We
they
have.
they were almost a 10-point underdog to Oregon.
Yep.
They were about 5 point under. It was 4.5, 4 point underdog, 3.5. I don't know what it closed at, but at one point it was 4.5 point underdog to Texas. Now you're already an underdog to Michigan, who, yeah, it is probably going to be the best team you've played all season. But I just feel like Michael Penix is on a mission. This team is on a mission. These guys, they kind of know this is it
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to lose at least probably three of those big guys, or four, including a couple of those offensive linemen on that offensive side. I think Washington goes in. I think it's going to be, I'm going to say it's going to be 38-20 Washington.
Whoa! Explosive win. Like that's a massive win.
I don't
38-20.
know. I feel like what's going to happen is they're going to get out to a big lead. Michigan is not a team that can come back, and so they're going to have to try to throw the ball more than run the football, and it's going to kind of not work out the way they want. I think McCarthy makes a few mistakes because he's going to have to press a little bit because said that offense, I mean, is so explosive. I don't know, as good as Michigan's defense is, I don't know if they can contain it. I don't know if anyone in college football can contain that offense. So I'm gonna go. It's gonna be a little bit bigger a blowout. We've had two really good games this last weekend, but same thing happened last year where we had two really good semifinal games and we had a pretty good size blowout in national championship game. I just feel like they're on a mission. Everyone's counting them out. They're gonna go in there and
Yeah, I like it.
get the business.
I like the gutsy call on it too because Michigan is the favorite going into it. We said Michigan's the best team all year long, well, almost all year long, and I'm gonna continue on that trend. I think Michigan wins this. I think it's gonna be a close game, 27-24. I think it's not gonna be as high scoring as what the projection is right now, but I do have Michigan winning it. Very complete team. I think Blake Corum probably gets in the end zone twice, another couple field goals, and one touchdown pass right there. I mean, that's like the script right there. Roman Wilson, was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets the touchdown. for them, and it's just the ultimate Michigan championship football. Which again, I don't think they've won the championship since 1997. So
Yeah,
they are due. I don't know if Washington has. I don't
it's
know.
been a
If it
long
has,
time
yeah,
ago. They have. It's been a long time.
yeah,
I think it's been 30 plus years.
yeah. Well, and that's not as long ago as we think.
Well, it's probably. I said 30 plus. It could be
You did.
further plus past the 30
That's
for
way
sure.
plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Claim championships 2. Bro, you almost nailed it. 1991. How
That's
did you just crush that,
I
man?
see. I feel like I remember hearing something about somewhere around the late 80s, early 90s. So I just kind of
Yeah.
threw the 30 out there because I knew it was maybe somewhat close to that, but it could have been way further past that.
Yeah, they finished the year number 1 in the coaches, number 2 in the AP poll, 8-0 in the Pac-10. God, remember when that
Yeah,
sounded
good.
normal? The
The
Pac-10 and
Pac-10,
Pac-12 sounded stupid, and now here we are.
Pac-2.
And here, let me ask you this: Who did Washington beat in 1991 in the Rose Bowl?
1991, the Rose Bowl, Penn
Yep,
State.
that's a good guess. It is Big Ten, of course. Number 4, Michigan.
Uh-oh.
Oh man,
Uh-oh.
that was a New Year's Six bowl right there. They won 34-14 in front of 100,000 fans. Which, in case you're wondering, yes, that was about 10 or not 10,000, 6,000 fans more than what was there this last weekend. So I think that's crazy. All right, so that brings us into our next thing: New Year's Six bowls. What a snooze fest!
Dude, so bad. I
Oh
mean,
man,
I don't know how people sat there and watched them. I
I
tried. I
did
tried
too.
so hard. I could not. Yeah, I could not
I
watch
turned that
those
Liberty,
games.
Oregon off pretty quick. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
good job, Bo Nix. You did Bo Nix things. This is
No.
terrible."
Yeah, I watched the Tennessee game instead. The
Yeah,
Tennessee Iowa
yeah. Well, I
game.
mean,
I watched.
obviously the recruit. Yeah,
Uh,
you wanted to
yeah,
see.
I wanted to see Nico. I watched the Wisconsin LSU game instead.
Yeah,
I'd much rather watch those games. Those New Year's Six bowl games were just pitiful.
yeah. They were so bad.
Yeah.
And the people are going to be complaining. They're going to say, "How do you fix them?" Listen, next year they're going to be fixed because they're going to be part of the playoff, I assume, right? Like, so you're
Yeah.
going to have these big games attached to guys who aren't opting out. People were complaining left and right. Wow,
Mhm.
Georgia, Florida State. We'll get into that one here in a second. Florida State, Georgia, they both had about the same amount of people who didn't play in the game due to injuries or due to
Transfer or
transfers and stuff. And so,
draft. Yeah.
what QB played for LSU or not for Georgia? Excuse me.
Well, did Beck play? Beck
Yeah,
played the first part, and then
yeah,
Gunnar Stockton played the second.
yeah. Well,
In the
great. Doesn't
second.
matter. And I understand they had quite a few people who opted out this defense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 63 points. Did you?
Yeah. That's what happens when you have a third string quarterback having to play. You can't. You had no generation of offense from the Florida State side of the field.
Yeah, none. The thing that got me was this defense gave up to Beck when he was in there 11 yards per attempt. Overall, they were at 10 yards per pass play. Excuse me, not attempt. And they gave up 8 yards per run.
Oh,
8
goodness.
yards per run. They averaged 2 yards per run themselves and 5 yards per pass.
Against an offense that we had talked about all season, go, man, they can't run the football like they normally can. And that was also without Brock Bowers in the game.
Here's the thing: 43, 20, 17, 14, 11, 27, 14, 14. These aren't lottery numbers or anything like bingo numbers. This is longest runs from each individual player. Like, just gashes. It looked so bad. If you looked at the longest pass play, 35, 19, 17, 31, 19, 28, 22, 14, 12. These are just big plays. All those are huge. And here's what I think. Georgia just got the benefit of the doubt going forward. If they're ever on the bubble and they're not going to get it, they're getting in now. Right? Same thing about Alabama. They earned it. Florida State is now in the Oklahoma territory. You're not getting the benefit of the doubt because last time, look what happened. So we're going to go to someone else.
I think it kind of points to a bigger problem too. That what's going on in Tallahassee. You just had this season, and you had a chance to go out there and kind of prove yourself to the committee and go, look, we should have been in. And yeah, you had guys enter the draft, but then you had a lot of guys that were starters on that defense, starters on the offensive line enter the transfer portal. And that's, to me, points to kind of a bigger problem with that. Is it because, oh, well, we're in the ACC, we need to get out? Because we'll never play in a playoff game because we're with Florida State. Is that part of it? I don't know. But to me, it points to something else going on there that you as a coach, nothing. I mean, I think Mike Norvell, what he's been able to do, turn this program around, has been great.
Mm-hmm.
But you weren't able to motivate these guys to go out there and try to prove a point.
Yeah,
I can understand Keon Coleman.
Georgia did.
Yeah, and that's the flip side of it. You have a Georgia team that, they had a lot of guys enter the transfer portal. For them, it was second and third string guys that were probably blocked and weren't going to see playing time for the next couple of years, and so they're like, let's go somewhere else or whatever. And they've had a few, a little bit of coaching turnover, So, but he was able to motivate these guys to go out there and play, unlike Mike Norvell. So that is there something a little bit more there than what we're seeing when it comes to maybe the culture around Florida State compared to the culture that's around Georgia?
Yeah. Georgia Bulldogs, I mean, you watch. They're going to be ranked second at the end of the year after this national championship. I mean, they're going to jump Texas. They're going to jump Alabama, which you're going to be like, okay, Alabama's lost 2 games to Texas. And then that just matters. Okay, well, the loser of this game, are they better than them? They're probably going to end it in the polls, and like it matters at the end of the year, but they're going to finish second and say, see, we told you guys we were the second. We should have been in the playoffs. And Florida State's going to finish, I don't know, 9 or something like that. But it's so frustrating to see a game like that because it's Orange Bowl. This should have been a great game, one that we all tuned into, and all of us turned it off by halftime because it was obvious that it was going to be pathetic.
Yeah, and see, and that's one thing. I guess we won't have to worry about it so much now, but I feel like they need to move the transfer portal entry date and when it opens and closes, because you do it immediately after the season's over. The regular season's over, so now you got all these guys enter the transfer portal from December 4th to January 4th or whatever it is. Now they're all entering the transfer portal and pretty much decimating teams. I get part of it has to do with the recruiting with the early signing period in the middle of December or whatever. It has to be after the bowl games, so these kids aren't incentivized to leave before they finish what they signed up to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at that game, how much different does Texas feel? And like with Kuners, if he gets hurt, pretty cautious about Arch Manning because he is a freshman. But what's the guy who just transferred? I can't remember.
Blake Murphy.
Yeah, Murphy. They're probably fine sending him out there. They feel a lot more comfortable with the game plan in his hands because he's been doing it all season long.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen because he's already transferred because it's already open. I think that is something that they should open back. They should move it back.
Yeah, they have to, because even with the 12 teams, it's still going to happen. And because you set this arbitrary date now where, okay, it's from this to this. If I don't go before the 4th, then I'm stuck here until May. And so I can't go and enroll in another school and learn their system and all that stuff. And so if you're going to allow these kids to be able to transfer at free will with no, have to sit out after one transfer now because of some court ruling that they got overturned when the NCAA tried to put in this, only one free transfer thing. So now you're going to have to move that back, because even with the 12, you're still going to have these kids going, well, I got to enter the transfer portal. I can't go play because if I don't, then I'm stuck for, months, and I'm not going to be able to go learn the new system and then go transfer in and be as well informed as I need to be going forward as I would if I, leave now.
Yeah. I hope they make changes. I mean, it's the NCAA, so they don't usually do anything right the first 6 tries, but maybe they'll try and adjust it. We mentioned it a little bit. You talked about you wanted to see Nico. Nico did have a good game in that bowl. 12 and 19, they just ran the ball a ton. I mean, they didn't have to do a whole lot. He did run the ball 15 times himself with 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, watch out for Tennessee next year. We said that this year they lost 4 games. Iowa is the biggest fraud of a team that I have seen in a while. Here, let me tell you, Marco Lainez, their backup quarterback, went 2 for 7 with 4 yards, no picks, no touchdowns. He had a QBR of 68.4. Tell me how that stat line is better than Deacon Hill's 7 for 18, 56 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, and a QBR of 0.5. The dude
Yes,
who went
maybe
2 for
the
7 for 4 yards, he gets a sixth of a yard every time he passes the ball.
I guess he didn't turn the ball over, so it doesn't affect his QBRs. But no, yeah, that whole
It's a
Iowa
joke.
thing, they're the worst 10-win team ever.
It
Ever.
is a bad 10-win team.
Yeah. Your offense is so bad.
It is atrocious, and their
Yeah.
defense did not show up in this game either. So like
Yeah.
it
But
didn't even
the
matter.
only reason why I watched that game was to see Nico
Nico,
play.
yeah,
I just wanted to see Nico play because I have some high hopes for Nico. I think all the recruiting analysts and stuff that had Arch and Malachi Nelson and stuff ahead of Jackson Arnold and Nico were absolutely wrong. You go back and watch those two kids play. They are special. They have something that in a few years, I mean, next year, we get to watch them play on the same field against each other in Norman. First SEC game for Oklahoma. I think it's going to be electric because you got two outstanding young quarterbacks that the potential is astronomical.
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and transition because we've talked quite a bit already about college football. We still got some NFL to get to, but Oklahoma, that game itself, Jackson 6 turnovers. This is just stupid funny how many turnovers there were in that game. Give me your
Yeah.
initial thoughts on this. They lost 38-24.
So I know a lot of people, we're expecting Jackson to go out there and just be a world beater. We had the expectation he's going to go out there and just be incredible. First start against a really tough opponent,
Mm-hmm.
against a really good Arizona team. Honestly, for me, after I look at it and go, man, the future's so bright for this program. You had the most starts by freshmen for a team ranked inside the top 15. You have a freshman quarterback that came in there and he made mistakes. Some of those throws, you can tell the timing, he just wasn't in sync early on. He was throwing, you throw it a half second early here, you complete the pass instead of, turning the ball
Interception.
over.
Yeah.
And he still went out there after every turnover and still went out there and was like, I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I'm going to still throw this football and, throw it over the middle into the coverage and stuff like that. And still, I feel like a lot of people are going to write Oklahoma off after losing as much as they've lost, losing Dylan Gabriel. I think this team looks a lot better going into the SEC than I think a lot of people are giving them credit for. The biggest question is going to be that offensive line. Can they build an offensive line? It was a ragtag bunch that they had to build together, put together. It did not work out
You
too
forgot
well.
one more. You forgot one more adjective. A ragtag trash bunch. They were so bad.
I feel like part of it was a couple of these guys were playing out of position. Sexton didn't have the best game, right tackle, but before that, the few games that he had to start whenever Guyton got hurt, he looked great. So I'm not too worried about the tackles. I imagine he'll get moved over to the left side. You bring in Spencer Brown from Michigan State, who's went out there. He's played in 30 some plus Big Ten games, knows how to play against tough competition. And it's going to be that middle. I mean, we lose a guy, Caden Green, we weren't expecting to lose. You lose your starting center and you lose your starting right guard. So it's going to be what can they do in the middle from then on going forward next year. But I think a lot of people look at the stat line, didn't watch the game, and then just go, "Oh, you had 6 turnovers." We still
Yeah.
almost won that game with 6
Dude,
turnovers.
that game couldn't have started much worse than it did for the
No,
Sooners. 2 interceptions in the first, I think, 5 attempts he had. They're only down 10-0. All that said, halftime 14-13, you're winning. The fumble pick six, whatever you want to
yeah,
call it. I know it's called a fumble because it should have been called a fumble. That was all
yeah,
in or Farouk again.
yeah.
You look at that, and they were on the way to go score and make that. What was it going to be? 30. I don't think the Sooners scored
No,
after that. I think it would have
no,
been
yeah, it would have
31.
been 30.
Yeah,
Yeah, 31
31-13.
13.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
just a completely different game.
yeah,
And, this is a little bit on OU. You can't do that. But this team, 31-13, you're telling me that you're not believing in that team?
yeah. I
And
mean, they should have every part had at least 28, or probably closer to I think 30 points because you had that one fumble there, and then you had Farouk also fumbled again in the red zone when you're
yeah,
marching. So at least 2 field goals at worst, 2 field goals. So you're
yeah,
talking about 30 points there at least, and who knows if they score touchdowns on those plays the way the offense was moving the football. So yeah,
yeah.
it completely turned the trajectory of that game, that one play.
Yeah, I have no problem with the offense. I don't have a problem with the offense except for the turnovers. That's a
Hmm.
frustrating
Yeah,
thing. They ran the ball really effectively well. Gavin Sawchuk is clearly the best running back on this team. Tommy Walker, I he's on his way out.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's on
Wisconsin
his
got
way
them a
out.
good running back.
Yeah, they did, but get the ball to Gavin Sawchuk. The it was. I'm done with Joe Farouk as a number one, and it's not because of this game with the turnovers. It's because he doesn't play like a number one. And I don't know why
No,
people still think he
yeah,
should be. He's not.
I think that he kind of got forced into that role again this year. You look at early on the first 5 weeks, Angelo Anthony was clearly the number one wide receiver,
That's the guy I
and
think should be the number one.
Farouk played great as that number two. And
Yeah,
then when Anthony got hurt, he was kind of pushed back into that number one role until like late in the season, whenever they were like, "Oh wait, Drake Stoops over the middle, no one can stop it."
yeah, no one can.
And so I think it is kind of partially due to the injuries that he kind of got thrust into that role. Anthony will be back next year. He'll probably be pushed back into the number one role. Nick Anderson had an incredible year. I think this wide receiver group is
Brandon
going to be up
Thompson,
there.
watch out.
Yeah, Brendan Thompson. You bring in Deion Burke from Purdue, who the kid is explosive too. You've got some wide receivers there. This could be one of the better wide receiver groups in college football next year. But yeah, my biggest thing defensive wise was, man, Woody Washington got torched.
He did, and he is
Absolutely
coming back
torched.
next year, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Which, I mean, typically didn't happen a whole lot this year for him. He
yeah,
played really good as that number one, kind of shut down corner for the most part. I was really impressed with how it seemed like rejuvenated the defensive line looked.
it
That
did.
month off kind of gave them the time to just, re-energize, and they went out there and they took care of a pretty solid Arizona offensive line. Got in Fafita's head, got hit him quite a few times and stuff. So I think there's some hope there. You bring in a bunch of young guys too in that group. David
Oh,
Stone,
it's
just
gonna be
watched him play
disgusting. Yeah,
in the Under Armour All American game. Dude is a problem all game.
yeah,
They've got some stuff going there. Maybe a couple of new transfers. You got a kid from Miami of Ohio came and visited today. He had 9.5 sacks last year. And then you got in a couple of days, kid from Purdue coming in, led the
mhm.
Big Ten in sacks, coming in for a visit. So maybe bringing in a couple of other guys, add to that defensive line.
Yeah.
They're
I
going to be
think
SEC ready.
going into the SEC, I think next year they're not winning the SEC
No,
unless Jackson Arnold is incredible. But
yeah,
the interceptions, you're right. Pre-snap decision, I'm going here to Stoops. Oh, he's picked off because you didn't read the defense.
yeah,
RPO, he made the wrong read, threw an interception.
hmm,
The one that was in between, he threw it when he was open, not when he was going to be open, and that's picked off.
hmm,
So
yep,
those are things. The dude, you said it right. You said earlier this year or last year, I guess. The ball looks different coming out of his hand. He's a
yeah,
much better thrower than Dylan Gabriel. I love Dylan
yeah,
Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is going to have a chance to win the Big Ten next year in Oregon. Jackson Arnold has the potential to be a difference maker at the next level of football, which
yeah,
I think we would all agree that Dylan Gabriel probably doesn't. And not
hmm,
to give any flack to him, it's just
yeah,
I think Jackson doesn't have to put everything into that throw to catch Brendan Thompson, and he's going to catch him in stride. Where
yeah.
it felt like I just don't think that it was in the skill set for
No,
DG.
he see this is how I summarized it when I watched it. I said I was telling my dad he he makes he makes throws that Dylan Gabriel can't, but makes throws that Dylan Gabriel wouldn't attempt. A
Yeah,
couple of those pick
yeah,
interceptions, Dylan Gabriel doesn't attempt those because he knows his arm strength isn't there. But you're talking about a guy, Jackson Arnold, who has the arm strength and goes, I think I can get it there.
I think I
So
can.
he makes it he makes throws that Dylan Gabriel couldn't, but then he made some throws that Dylan Gabriel wouldn't have,
Hmm.
attempted. So it's kind of going to be that give and take. I think early on in this, as next year goes, but yeah, I feel like the sky is the limit for the kid. Anyone that didn't have him as number one or number two quarterback in that recruiting class, you probably need to look at what you're doing, because
He
him and
looks,
Nico were clearly, yeah, the way that ball comes off that hand is just different.
yeah. Well, and so the other person that people were really pushing it, then this is the weirdest thing about the whole bowl season for me is I found myself happy for USC with Miller Moss and
Miller
his
Moss.
massive game, mostly because he was not a Lincoln Riley guy. He was one that
Yeah.
was already there, that has waited and waited and waited, and finally got his moment, and he exploded onto the scene with 6 touchdowns, over 300 yards. It was nearly perfect in this game. And
Yeah.
I was like, good for them, because Malachi Nelson, the other QB recruit that was highly touted out of there, is transferring out. So it was the weirdest moment. Also, they were 7-5. So what does it
Yeah.
matter if they lose another game? I don't need that.
Yeah.
But so it's nice to see that for them. But that defense still got torched on the ground.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the questions around Will Howard. He came and visited. Now he's kind of going and look at a couple other places. He went and visited Ohio State, Miami. Did they kind of go, well, maybe we have our guy in Miller Moss and don't need to go out and get Will Howard?
Yeah.
Or do you just go, well, it was a bowl game. He got 6 touchdowns. We need someone else. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think it may even put, kind of help make Will Howard's mind, going, well, man, that kid threw 6 touchdowns. Maybe there'd be more competition there. Maybe I don't want to, risk pulling a Spencer Sanders and going to a school that has a quarterback and then not seeing the field your final year of college football. So maybe he goes, oh, well, Ohio State lost their guy. We saw what happened in that bowl game. Maybe I'll go there or go to Miami. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting in the next couple of weeks to see what happens with Will Howard and USC and stuff like that.
And you're going to hear all of the reaction and response and whatever you else want to label it as the transfer portal closes and then signing period ends. College football season may be coming to a close, but your coverage will not with the W Sports Podcast. We are going to move on to the NFL.
Yeah.
That's all right. All right. So, because it is after week 17, which has 1 week left, and we're about to head into that week where Patrick Mahomes isn't playing. And yeah, I know household name Joe Flacco is also being rested because of playoff locked in already. So, headed into the final week of this season, if you're playing fantasy football, what are you doing? You guys,
Yeah,
come
right.
on, what are you doing? I had Joe Flacco, should have started and didn't, and now you can't in this last week. So looking forward to this upcoming weekend. We had the big ones this weekend. Texans and Colts is on Saturday night. Winner take all. Loser,
Yeah.
see ya.
Yeah, and it also got other implications. You win that, you potentially win that division too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, you definitely want to win, get you in the playoffs, but you also have a chance if you win and the Jags lose or tie.
Mm-hmm.
Colts get in, the division, and it's kind of the same thing with the Texans. Jags lose that game, and we don't know if Trevor Lawrence is playing.
Yeah, missed his first career game last week.
Yeah, he may miss another, and so there's a potential that we see a team that we're expecting them to get into the playoffs and win this division with ease, potentially miss the playoffs because your starting quarterback gets hurt at the end of the season.
Yeah, and they at one point, remember everybody, they could have had the number 1 seed, and now they're 9-7 and might miss it. So the Jags ending on this year on a tie would be the most Jaguars thing they could do.
It would definitely help them. Honestly, it would.
Right? Yeah. That's why I missed my fantasy playoffs despite being number 2 in the league in scoring, was because of a tie. Not mine, someone else. So, all right, let's look at this. One of the games that people were really upset about and talking about was the Cowboys Lions. What was your takeaway of this? You don't necessarily have to bring down the play, but what was your takeaway?
The refs had a hand in the outcome again in this game. It had some playoff implications. I mean, Cowboys lose that game, they're not sitting in the first place now, and controlling the destiny for the East. I mean, luckily for them, the Eagles lost this week, but I mean, the Lions had a potential to move up to that number 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, you missed multiple calls throughout that game. The tripping call on the wrong guy, absolutely. I don't know how you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's on Hendershock, not on Aiden Hutchinson, even though Aiden Hutchinson has his back to him and has his legs extended out. And then they absolutely got it wrong. I mean, so what I had heard is that the head ref went ahead and I guess Skipper had been coming in and reporting as eligible receiver throughout the game, and he just saw Skipper coming onto the field and immediately went, "Oh, he's reporting," without paying attention to Taylor Decker, who's literally in your face telling you, "I'm reporting," and Skipper doesn't come in, doesn't report, just runs, over to Decker, kind of making sure that he knows what's going on, and goes and lines up. And then even you had guys afterward going, "Oh, well, he was covered up anyway, so Decker, it was, either or." I'm like, well, that wasn't true either, because Skipper didn't come in and line up at tackle; he lined up at guard, and he had the wide receivers off the line. So yeah, it's just another one of those instances where the refs had their hand in a big game, and the outcome was affected by it. Luckily, at least they're kind of taking somewhat, care of it, going, well, they're probably not going to get to call a playoff game now because of this. That
that and the
ref group.
MVS,
Yeah,
Chiefs Packers game.
yeah, same. The late hit on the sideline, stuff like that. Yeah, at least they're getting punished a little bit for it, but there still also has to be something. I mean, come on, you guys have done this throughout the season. There has to be. You have to figure out a way to fix something, because it's getting to a point now where it's every week we're going, well, that game was affected because of this, and it's like pretty blatant stuff. It's not like cut and dry, like, oh, that's kind of one of those, questionable calls. It could go either way. These are like pretty blatant stuff that they have missed or called, and it wasn't correct. It's just the education has to be fixed somewhere when it comes to these refs throughout, or we're just going to keep on seeing it happen.
Yeah, I would also like some public grades after games.
Right.
That would be a lot of fun to see. Or hey, robot refs, is that a thing? Can we do that?
I mean, baseball, they have grades after, for these umpires.
I know. We see that calls affected, who is affected for, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's helpful. So here, this brings down the big question: who is the bigger threat in the NFC, the Cowboys or the Lions?
Man, I don't know if I trust either team, honestly, at this point. I feel like the Lions kind of went through their thing. Even though they played better the last few weeks, they're still kind of in the shaky mode. It's Dallas when it comes to playoffs. Do we really trust Dak Prescott when it comes to playoffs? But I'm going to go with Dallas just because, at least for sure, the only chance that they have if they win out and they win this week,
it's home.
To be they're going to be at home. They won't be on the road unless they play the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So at least for them, they will be at home where they play better than they do on the road. So I'll go with Dallas just based off that part because of the home field advantage throughout most of the playoffs. But honestly, I don't know if I really trust either of these teams. I don't know if I really trust a whole lot of teams when it comes to the NFC, except for maybe the 49ers.
And Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the Lions are the better team because they can run the ball. And I think that's the big separator. Tell me I'm wrong about this. The Dallas Cowboys offense is the Green Bay Packers offense with Mike McCarthy calling the plays, with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball 12 times for completions to Devontae Adams and 2 touchdowns. That's it. That's what the offense is. And then a bunch of other guys out there somewhere.
Yeah, this is exactly what I said at the beginning of the year, that this is he took the year off to educate himself and become a better and get with the game now when it came offensive wise, and took the Cowboys shot. Same exact thing where you're not scheming the wide receiver open, but you're like, okay, Dak, just throw it to CeeDee Lamb. That's all we got.
He's good enough to catch
Lamb. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb, great wide receiver. Good for him because it's going to help him when it comes contract time. But it's the same offense, and that doesn't work too often. And you get into a game like they did a couple weeks, last 2 weeks or really 3 weeks, where the offense is kind of just meh, against the Bills, against the Dolphins, against the Lions. Yeah, I mean, I can see your point there.
Give me the one that can run the ball.
Yeah, is more balanced when it comes to the Lions than it is. But also the defense, I trust that defense more with the Cowboys than I do the Lions. So it's kind of a give and take situation there. But I totally see your point there.
Yeah, and I'll throw this out there. Lions are 6-3 on the road, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that out there. The second best record on the road in the NFC outside of the 49ers. Looking at the Packers, still have a shot to make the playoffs technically. So the Vikings. So do you give your Packers a shot? Are they making it?
All I got to do is win. Win and you're in. They still have an avenue if they lose.
It's
They would
just
just need
complicated.
a lot more complicated. Hopefully, Jordan Love can go out and do something that Aaron Rodgers wasn't capable of doing last year, and it's beating a divisional rival last week of the season to get that final wild card spot.
He's at home, chance
We'll
of
see.
snow.
We were at home with a chance of snow.
This is so great. I believe in Jordan Love. I think he's
I do
gonna
too.
have a good opportunity here. The Bears, and we'll get to this too. Justin Fields he's doing something here. I don't know how we looked up and all of a sudden the Bears are 7-9 with a chance to be 8-9 at the end of the year with the first overall pick.
Their
Look
defense,
at this, man.
Their defense took a big step forward about halfway through the season.
Yeah.
That first Lions game that they played, they turned Goff over several times. They gave up a lot of rushing yards, but it was like something kind of clicked. You bring in Montez Sweat. All he does is come in and just wreak havoc on every offensive line he's played. He's the first player ever in NFL history to lead a team in sacks for two different teams.
Yeah.
In the same season. So I think a lot of it has to be contributed to the defense. Justin Fields has played better, but I don't. You look at the numbers, and Fields really hasn't played super great. He's still, I think, throughout December he was only completing 55% of his passes. He still had a couple, the turnovers, the inaccurate passes, and stuff like that. I think a lot of it has to be contributed to that defense has been able to get off the field more than they were early on in the season.
Yeah, nailed it. He is 55% of his passes. He has 4 touchdowns to where in November he only had 1 passing touchdown, which is crazy.
Yeah.
The defense has only given up more than 20 points twice all year. It has not happened since the game against the Lions in which – or no, that's not wrong. I read that wrong. Sorry, they haven't given up more than 20 points since that game against the Lions, which they should have won, and they should have held them to probably less than that. And before that, it hasn't been since week 9. So they're definitely doing something right. Number 1 overall pick. Do you think they keep it? Do you think they trade it?
Oh, I know people aren't going to like my take, especially a lot of Bears fans, because they are advocating for Justin Fields, but you absolutely cannot not draft Caleb Williams. You have to draft Caleb Williams.
Marvin Harrison. Get him Marvin Harrison. What are you talking about?
What is another wide receiver going to do for the guy that's only completing 55% of his passes in the biggest month of the season? Do you really think that Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback in Chicago?
I don't think so, but I don't think there's a lot of franchise quarterbacks in the league right now. And I'm not sold that Caleb Williams is that guy.
See, I am completely sold that Caleb Williams' floor is higher. Is about midway between Justin Fields' ceiling and floor. Yeah, that his floor is so high that I think it's going to be hard for him just to be a complete flop.
Yeah,
because he's able to do things most quarterbacks can't do. The maturity to me is going to be the biggest thing for him, is him being able to mature. But if you are Ryan Poles, and this is another thing, is if you fire Getsy, all you're doing is setting Fields back another year, because you're going to have to learn a new offense. You're keeping Eberflus is what it sounds like, but you're more likely Getsy isn't going to be the offensive coordinator with everything that's gone on with the offense this year. Is Justin Fields really that good? I mean, the numbers, they're basically what they were last year. Completion percentage is like 0.7% better than it was last year. Interception touchdown ratio, pretty much the same. His QBR's worse. His air yards per attempt are way lower than they were last year. It's just I don't see a guy there that in that system and in that area. I feel like you can get a first-round pick for him, a late first-round pick. You trade him, you draft Caleb Williams. You still have a chance that this wide receiver group is so deep that even at the 10, 12, 11 mark, you have a chance at Malik Neighbors or Roman Dunze, who I think Malik Neighbors is closer to Marvin Harrison than a lot of people give him credit for. The kid is 6'4". He's blazing speed, got hands like no other. All he is the all-time leading receiver at LSU with all those receivers that they've had throughout their history.
Wide receiver, you.
Yeah. So I think he's closer to Marvin Harrison. I think Roman Dunze is another kid that a lot of people, yeah, they look at his numbers and where the offense that he's in. This kid is another elite kid. I really believe that there's close to 7 wide receivers in this class that have a legit chance to be legit number 1 wide receivers in NFL. So why take Marvin Harrison? Is he that far ahead of everyone else? I don't think he is. I think he is the best wide receiver in this class and potentially the best, one of the best players, 1-2 between him and Caleb. But I just don't think that Justin Fields giving him another wide receiver is really going to fix things for him, because to me, he doesn't process the game fast enough. When it comes to his reads, he's slow when it comes to his progressions, and then he doesn't read. He can only really read one side of the field, and that's not
it's not good enough.
It's not a recipe for success in NFL. And that's my biggest problem with him, is that if he was able to read the defense better and when they're able to go through his progressions faster, maybe we're talking something different. But that's not really something you can teach at this point in his career.
Yeah,
I feel like Caleb Williams, the ceiling for him is top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And I know a lot of people, I feel like people right now are just trying to make up things just to go, oh, well, look, Fields is better, or Caleb Williams, this isn't that good. When you put on the tape, and yeah, he didn't have as great of a year as he did last year, Heisman Trophy winning year, but he still had a heck of a season with less talent, worse offensive line, worse run game. I feel like he is one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in the last 20 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to find out. We're definitely going to find out, because that first overall pick, because of Caleb Williams, is going to have a very high price tag, and they could trade and do a Drake May and some other stuff instead. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's that possibility. I mean, it sounds like they're pretty high on Jaden Daniels also.
Yeah.
So, you move down a couple spots, get a bevy of draft picks, move down a couple spots, take Jaden Daniels or something like that. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. But I just feel like Justin Fields' time in Chicago probably needs to be over after this year.
Yeah, well, the good news is Carolina Panthers are feeling great about the trade. Bryce Young, let's go. This team has scored 230 points this year.
Your owners throwing drinks on opposing fans.
Yeah, you've been outscored by the New York Giants. Just to throw this out there. They scored more points on offense than you with DeVito.
And Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah. So it's not looking good for them. This trade is going to go down as one of the worst ones, I think, long term, especially depending on what this return looks like. Especially even if they flip it for a bunch of other stuff, it could look absolutely horrendous, especially with the year that there is. And I think we said this last year. We don't think that Bryce Young is better than X, being Caleb Williams. So why are you making this thing? And sometimes in the NFL, most times we get very short-sighted. And I think that's what we're seeing. The Bengals got eliminated this week by the Chiefs. Thank goodness. Let's go. Chiefs still don't look good, but don't count them out. That team absolutely defensive-wise, I know it's Jake Browning, but they were in the backfield the whole time. And that last sack came against Orlando Brown Jr., which felt pretty good. And then Jamar Chase is just running his mouth. Whatever. You're going to have fun watching, in January.
Yeah, have fun sitting at home watching the playoffs.
Yeah. So, just good. Patrick Mahomes isn't playing this weekend. It's going to be an ugly game. I'm probably not going to watch it.
Blaine Gabbert, is that the backup?
Yikes.
There's not too many teams or too many games we're tuning into this week, because like they put out like the starting quarterback list for some of these teams, and you're just like, okay, so they're definitely not trying because they don't need to. Either they're in the playoffs or they're just on the outside and they don't really care. They're just trying not to get in the playoffs to help their draft position or whatever. Yeah.
Well, look back. I mean, so one of the games we didn't mention, we can hit real quick, is the Dolphins and the Ravens. Going to be a big game, absolute blowout. It wasn't close. Dolphins do what they do on the road in December, and they get absolutely hosed. So they actually have a chance to lose the division this week as they play the Buffalo Bills. It's in Miami, though, so that should help. But this is a Bills team that at one point, remember, was 6-6, and they've won 4 in a row to have a chance to win the division. Bigger threat in the. Go ahead.
It's if they lose, there's a chance they miss the playoffs.
Isn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
So it's hard to ask this question, but who's the biggest threat in the AFC outside People, who is it right now? The Ravens, who we don't trust playoff Lamar. The Chiefs, who don't play offense anymore. A Bills team, who if they lose, they could lose the playoff, a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, who can't play on the road and have not shown up in December here. Who is the actual team? Sorry, I left out the AFC South.
I know a lot of people are gonna hear this. It's the Chiefs. It's
I
absolutely the
know.
Chiefs. It's the defense. And do people not learn last year? You do not count out Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs.
Or Steve Spagnuolo.
The dude, yeah, all the dude did was go out and win a Super Bowl on one foot. I don't care how bad the offense has been. Offense, if you give it, run it through Pacheco like you had been the last few games, when he's healthy. Rashee Rice has stepped up, the last few weeks. The offense may not look great, but it's looking better than it was midway through the season. And it's Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo. When it comes defense, playoff time, this is a team you never count out. This is absolutely the biggest threat to the Ravens or whoever you think is the top team in the AFC right now. Is absolutely 100% the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, nice to hear you say it.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to go, "Oh, it's not their season," and it may not be their season. But if we're talking about threats, I mean, the Bills have barely hung on the last couple of weeks against the Chargers, and you played like you give the ball to James Cook against Dallas, and then it was like next couple of weeks, don't give him the football.
Yeah.
Why? What changed there? You just blew out one of the best defenses in NFL. Give them the ball. I don't trust them going forward. I don't trust the Dolphins. They've got injuries now. Tua's a little banged up. Tyreek Hill's banged up. Waddle's banged up. Chubb's out for the season. They're and it's Lamar Jackson playoffs. Can he rewrite his story when it comes to playoffs this year? As great as they've played and as dominant as they've been the last few weeks against two really good teams, come playoff time, can he step up and perform like he does throughout the regular season? We'll have to see. But, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. You can never count the guy out ever.
Mm-hmm. You can't.
I mean, how many times going into the playoffs did we go, well, the Patriots aren't that good this year, but they had two of the biggest X factors in NFL, and it was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Same exact situation when it comes to the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid.
Yep. So let's do this real quick. You're going to predict each of the games in Week 18. We're going to find out who the playoff teams are. Okay. I'm going to use that playoff thing on ESPN. Okay. So I don't know all the quarterbacks here, but you'll know this. And here's the thing: Mike Tomlin's still not going to have a losing record in the regular season. Just want to point that out. So the rest of the game, we're going to start with Steelers versus at Baltimore. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Steelers because Tyler Huntley's starting for the Ravens.
All right, you got Texans at the Colts.
Give me the Texans. Give me C.J. Stroud.
Oh, let's go. Bucks, Panthers. That's funny.
No, give me that's Bucks. Baker's getting in the playoffs.
Bengals, Browns. No Joe Flacco. Oh.
I mean, I'll go Bengals just because I feel like Jake Browning's going to have something to play for. Maybe contract or spot on the team.
Mixing he needs like 70 yards to get over 1,000. Vikings at Detroit.
I don't know. Does Detroit have anything to play for? No.
I don't know.
I don't know who's starting for them either.
I think Detroit could technically get the second seed still.
Can they still get the second seed? Give me Detroit. Give them a chance. I don't trust any of those quarterbacks that are playing for the Vikings.
Yeah. Okay. Jets at Patriots. The game no one's going to watch.
Give me the Jets because the Patriots are trying to lose.
Bro, give me the tie. Come on, man.
Give me the tie.
All right, 3-3 tie. All right, that's what I'm going to put down. This doesn't All right, we got Falcons at Saints.
Ooh, give me the Saints.
Okay. And then Jags at Titans.
I think the Jags win. No, I don't know. It's hard to. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is playing in that game. That's the biggest problem. If Trevor Lawrence isn't playing in that game, it's completely different. Give me the Titans. Give me the Titans because I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is playing, and they seem to always have a problem with the Titans.
Okay, well, he was at practice today, back at practice. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean everything. Seahawks at Cardinals, who just won.
I think I think Cardinals are playing for draft spot. I don't think they're going to
Okay.
try to win this game a whole lot. I think Seattle wins.
All right. Chiefs playing Gabbert versus Stick. Chargers.
Uh,
It's in
Give me
San Diego.
Easton
Very cold.
Stick. Easton Stick. I feel like yeah,
Yeah, doesn't matter. All
he's
right,
got something to prove.
Broncos Raiders.
Give me the Raiders. I think Antonio Pierce is trying to get that job. He's going to get those guys out there, and they're going to play
And the
hard.
Broncos don't want to win with Sean Payton. What a joke
No,
that is. Eagles at Giants.
Eagles. Give me the Eagles.
Yeah, that's as bad as the Eagles have played. That's kind
Yeah,
of 49ers or Rams at 49ers.
Rams. I mean, Brock Purdy probably not playing. Imagine CMC's not playing. They already said he's probably out. I'm sure a lot of those guys aren't playing.
So you're saying the Rams, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Cowboys at Commanders.
I'm going to go with the Commanders. I think the Cowboys choke last week of the season exactly like they did last year against the Commanders. Sam Howell has another big game and kind of helps maybe his positioning on that team.
All right, we got Bills at Dolphins.
Oh, man. Give me the Bills. I think there's too many injuries for the Dolphins right now.
All right. Just like that, the Dolphins have fallen to the 6th seed. All right, the big one right now. They win and they're in. They lose and they're out. Bears at Packers. I'm making you pick it last.
You're making me pick. I don't want to pick. You know how superstitious I am.
All right,
Give me Packers.
Okay.
Give me Jordan Love.
Let's go, the Jordan
Give
Love.
me Jordan Love.
Let's go. So, all right, so this means number 1 is Baltimore, then Buffalo at the 2 seed, Chiefs locked in at 3, 4th seed would be Houston, 5 they would be playing against Cleveland, and then Chiefs would be playing against Miami, in Kansas City in January. Have fun. And then the Bills versus the Steelers. What a Cinderella story Pittsburgh would be with Mason Rudolph. Then you of course you already have locked in San Francisco. They're the number 1. Philadelphia 2, Detroit 3, 4th seed Tampa Bay gets in there. That was our pick. And then they would be playing Dallas again. Then you have the Rams versus Detroit, and the next as the 6th seed, and then the Packers versus the Eagles. Ooh, that could be good. All right, so you heard it here first. We did it. There it is, right there.
There it is.
Okay.
We'll see what happens next week.
We're going to see what happens next week. But any final thoughts? I mean, we went a little bit long today, but it was a different day, so that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot to talk about there when it came to college football. So, but I think I'm good. I think I've got it all. Just hopefully Jordan Love can do something Aaron Rodgers could not do last year.
Yeah, that's what we're predicting here on the W Sports Podcast. And I will say this: stay tuned. We're not sure what day we're going to record next because National Championship is next Monday night, so you're probably going to be pretty busy, and we might be pretty busy that day too. So we're going to figure it out.
Yeah. We'll eventually get back on the right schedule, but when you got these games, especially when they put them on Mondays for some reason,
I know I'm kind of frustrated with that. But we appreciate y'all listening. We appreciate you tuning in. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you're consuming podcasts, whether it's on YouTube, social media. You can also subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Of course, leave a review. Share it with someone new today. We greatly appreciate it. Until then, we're going to see y'all next time.
See ya.